Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam introduction. We have been reading about Lord Chaitanya. Would somebody like to read?
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Ratna.
Okay. The Vedic injunctions are self-authorized, and if some mundane creature adjusts the interpretations of the Vedas, he defies their authority. It is foolish to think of oneself as more intelligent than Srila Vyasadeva. He has already expressed himself in his sutras, and there is no need of help from personalities of lesser importance. His work, the Vedanta Sutra, is as dazzling as the mighty sun. And when someone tries to give his own interpretations on the effulgent sun like Vedanta Sutra, he attempts to cover his sun with the cloud of his imagination.
So we were hearing yesterday that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was explaining the Vedanta Sutra to Lord Chaitanya continuously for 7 to 10 days. But Lord Chaitanya didn't say a word. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked him that, I've been continuously speaking and you don't say anything. Do you understand? So Lord Chaitanya told him, I very well understand the Vedanta Sutra because the Vedanta Sutra, the meaning is there in the Vedanta Sutra itself. What I don't understand is your explanation of the Vedanta Sutra. So Lord Chaitanya is right away, what we say, he's right away rejecting any kind of misinterpretation of the Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra has been compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, and the natural commentary of the Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam, also written by Vyasadeva, is by the same author. So because some people, what they do is they misinterpret Vedanta Sutra or they put their own meanings in Vedanta Sutra, but the direct meaning is very clear in the Vedanta Sutra.
The Vedas and Puranas are one and the same in purpose. They ascertain the absolute truth, which is greater than everything else. The absolute truth is ultimately realized as the absolute personality of Godhead with absolute controlling power. As such, the absolute personality of Godhead must be completely full of opulence, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Yet the transcendental personality of Godhead is astonishingly ascertained as impersonal. The
So the Vedas and Puranas, what are they telling us? They're telling us about the absolute truth. The absolute truth. What we understand in our lives, daily lives, that is relative truth. It's relative to certain circumstance, relative to time, relative to place. But the Vedas and Puranas are speaking about absolute truth, that which never changes, greater than everything, absolute control power. So that's the absolute personality of Godhead. So then Prabhupada is pointing out, so the absolute truth must be completely full of all six opulences. Parasara Muni has given the definition of God as one who has all the six opulences in full to the complete degree. All opulence, all strength, means all wealth, all strength, all fame, all beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. So someone who is the most beautiful, someone who has the most knowledge, or rather, someone who is all beautiful. Nobody is more beautiful. Someone who has all the knowledge, someone who has all the fame, all the strength, So these are the characteristics of the absolute truth. So Prabhupada is saying, and yet people say the absolute truth is impersonal, is not a person. Anyone who has these qualities is a person. No? He has beauty, he has knowledge, he has renunciation, he has strength, fame, he has wealth. So he's a person.
Hare Krishna. Actually, I want to know, like, absolute truth is Swam Krishna, or absolute truth is us, like his like production, his controlling, and his like destroy everything. Like these all three, or Swam Bhagwan is absolute truth.
See, the personality of Godhead is Krishna, and everything belongs to him. We belong to him. The material world belongs to him. Everything belongs to him. There is nothing separate from him. So we are not the absolute truth. We are part of the absolute truth. The
Okay, like
material energy is part of the absolute truth. So we are all part of the complete whole.
mm,
Is that okay?
like everything, yeah, everything in the universe, all like he is the only one. He is just maintaining everything himself, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
he's maintaining all of us. We are his
Mhm.
energy.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay. The impersonal description of the absolute truth in the Vedas is given to nullify the mundane conception of absolute whole. Personal features of Lord are completely different from all kinds of mundane features. The living entities are all individual persons, and they are all parts and parcels of supreme whole. If the parts and parcels are individual persons, and source of their emanation must not be impersonal. He is the supreme person among all the relative persons.
Yeah, then uh, Prabhupada is saying, pointing out that why the Vedas say sometimes nirguna, for the absolute truth, to say that he has no material qualities, that he has no material form, but he has spiritual qualities. He has a spiritual form. This is what the Vedas are trying to tell us. We can't say that God has no qualities. If we, living entities, we are part and parcels of God. If we have qualities, how can God not have any qualities? The part has to have all the qualities of the whole, right? Or at least some qualities of the whole. So we cannot have anything that God does not have. So we are persons, the individual souls, we are persons. So, of course, the complete whole, our source from who we are coming, has to be the supreme person. He is the supreme person. The absolute truth is a supreme person.
The Vedas inform us that from him, Brahman, everything emanates, and on him everything rests. And after annihilation, everything merges in him only. Therefore, he is the ultimate dative, causative, and accommodating cause of all causes. And these causes cannot be attributed to an impersonal object.
So, the creation is happening from the Supreme Lord, from the Brahman. Everything, the material world is coming from him, is resting on him, means he's maintaining it. And when the annihilation of the material world takes place, everything enters again in his body. So he is the cause of all causes, sarva karana karanam. So Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of us individual souls. So he's the supreme soul. An impersonal thing can't be the cause of the material world. You know, matter can't give life. Only life can give life.
The Vedas inform us that he alone became many, and when he so desires, he glances over material nature. Before he glanced over material nature, there was no material cosmic creation. Therefore, his glance is not material. Material mind or senses were unborn when the Lord glanced over material nature. Thus, evidence in Vedas prove that beyond a doubt of Lord has transcendental eyes and the transcendental mind. They are not material. His impersonality, therefore, is a negation of his materiality, but not a denial of his transcendental personality.
So here Lord Chaitanya is continuing to say that the Vedas are saying, how does the cosmic manifestation take place? How this material world is created? You know, we are explained that God, he glances over material energy. So he exists before the creation is taking place, before the material mind is uh, evolved, or before the material mind or the material senses are created. So the Lord's glance, God's glance is not material, it is spiritual. God's mind is not material, it is spiritual. He exists before the material creation.
Brahman ultimately refers to the personality of Godhead. Impersonal Brahman realization is just the negative conception of mundane creations. Paramatma is the localized aspect of Brahman within all kinds of material bodies. Ultimately, the supreme Brahman realization is the realization of the personality of Godhead according to the evidence of revealed scriptures. He is ultimate source of Vishnu Tattvas.
So all the Vedas are explaining to us God is a person. The Brahma Jyoti, the Brahman, is the effulgence coming from his body, and Paramatma is the feature by which he is pervading this entire material world, by which he is present here in the material world. He is entered as Paramatma into every atom of the universe. He is entering into every heart of the of all the living entities. So God is a person, the Brahma Jyoti, the Brahman effulgence is the effulgence which is coming from his body, and Paramatma is God's expansion by which he is present in this material world. He's entered into every atom of this universe and also in the heart of every living entity.
Is anybody want to read? Please continue. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay. Nobody, then I will continue. Okay. The Puranas are also supplementary to the Vedas. The Vedic mantras are too difficult for an ordinary man. Women, Sudras, and so-called twice-born higher castes are unable to penetrate into the sense of Vedas. And thus the Mahabharata and the Puranas are made easy to explain the truths of the Vedas. In his prayers before the poet Sri Krishna, Brahma said that there is no limit to the fortune of residents of Brajbhumi, headed by Sri Nand Maharaj. and Yashodamai, because the eternal absolute truth has become their intimate relative.
So to study the Vedas is not very easy, especially in the Kali Yuga. We do not have this capacity to understand the Vedic mantras. Really qualified brahmanas are needed to be able to understand Vedic mantras. So Srila Vyasadeva, he gave the Puranas. Puranas is the explanation of the Vedas in the form of stories for easier understanding. And so that's the reason he gave us Mahabharata, Puranas, to understand the meaning of the Vedas. And then here, Lord Brahma is praying to Krishna after the Brahma Vimohan Leela. And he's saying that the Brajbasis are so fortunate. The Brajbasis, who are headed by Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, are so fortunate. There is no end to their fortune. Why? Because the absolute truth is there with them. It's become their son, their friend, their lover. That is Lord Krishna. He is the absolute truth. And Lord Brahma, he's giving evidence that Sri Krishna is the absolute truth. We always learn from the authority. We go to school, we learn from the teacher. So Lord Brahma is one of the spiritual authorities. He is also calling Krishna the absolute truth.
Okay. The
Okay,
Vedic
Ratna is
mantra.
asking, you put in a chat if anyone else wants to read. Does anyone else want to read? Maybe not. No, Ratna, you continue.
Okay. The Vedic mantras maintains that absolute truth has no legs and no hands, and yet goes faster than all that accepts everything that is offered to him in devotion. The latter statements definitely suggest the personal features of the Lord. Although his hands and legs are distinguished from mundane hands and legs or other senses.
So the mantras are saying absolute truth, no hands, no legs, but yet he can go faster. That he accepts everything that is offered him in devotion. So means what? Means he has no material hands or legs. Right? We offer to the deity food or any offering, flowers, the deity accepts. So he has spiritual hands and legs, not material hands and legs. Because many people think that, oh, God has no form because the Vedas are saying no hands and legs. But it's not, but the same Veda is saying that God can run faster than anyone to accept whatever is being offered to him in devotion. So means he has no material senses, no material hands, legs. He has spiritual senses, spiritual hands and legs.
Brahman, therefore, is never impersonal, but when such mantras are indirectly interpreted, it is wrongly thought that the absolute truth is impersonal. The absolute truth personality of Godhead is full of all opulences, and therefore he has a transcendental form of full existence, knowledge, and bliss. How can one establish that the absolute truth is impersonal?
The direct meaning of the Vedic mantras is that absolute truth is a person. The God is a person, and that he is full of all opulences. We said the six opulences: knowledge, fame, beauty, strength, wealth, renunciation. Also, his form is Satchidananda. The Vedas are describing So instead of misinterpreting the Vedas, we simply have to accept the Vedas as they are. Accept that God has a form which is transcendental, spiritual. This is what they are telling us. So Lord Chaitanya he's by telling to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's also telling us not to misinterpret the Vedas, but accept them as they are. Take the direct meaning of the Vedas. I think Neetu is here. Ratna, you asking if anyone wants to read. Maybe Neetu wants to read.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Neetu, you want
Hare
to read?
Krishna. Yeah,
You
I
want?
can read.
Okay. Continue. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Brahman, being full of opulences, is understood to have manifold energies, and all these energies are classified under three headings under the authority of Vishnu Purana, which says that the transcendental energies of Lord Vishnu are primarily three. His spiritual energy and the energy of the living entities are classified as superior energy, whereas the material energy is an inferior one, which is sprouted out of ignorance. The energy
So
of
did
the
you say?
living entities is
I'll just
technically called,
Haribol, Hare
sorry,
Krishna.
yeah,
Sorry,
Hare
I'll
Krishna.
just speak about this. So we say God is omnipotent. We are saying Brahman has all the opulences. So if we are saying he has all opulences, means he has all energies. Omnipotent. When we are saying he's omnipotent, means he has many, many potencies. So what are those potencies? You see, we are trying to understand how great God is. We simply say God is great, but how great he is. This is what we are trying to understand. So his energies are broadly classified as spiritual, and that is his internal energy. Then we, the living entities, we are his marginal energy, the souls. We individual souls are marginal energy of God. We are also spiritual energy. We are also superior energy, but we are marginal. And then there is this material energy, which is inferior energy. It is separated from the Lord. That's why it is inferior. It's separate from the Lord. The Lord does not personally associate with the material energy. The material energy, this material world is a manifestation of the material energy. So we read on.
Yeah. The energy of the living entities is technically called Kshetrajna energy. This Kshetrajna Shakti, although equal in quality with the Lord, becomes overpowered by material energy out of ignorance and thus suffers all sorts of material miseries. In other words, the living entities are located in the marginal energy between the superior, spiritual, and inferior material energies, and in proportion to the living being's contact with either the material or spiritual energies. The living entity is situated in proportionately higher and lower levels of existence.
So we, the individual souls, we are the marginal energy of God. We are called marginal because why? Sometimes we are under the influence of Maya, and sometimes we are under the influence of the spiritual energy. Our size is very small. We are part and parcel of God, so we have same quality as God, Satchit Ananda. But our size being very minute, we are 1/10,000 the tip of a hair. That's the size of the individual soul. The size is so minute, so we need to take shelter, either the material energy or the spiritual energy. Based on our desires, we are either in the material energy or in the spiritual energy. Either in the material world or spiritual world, based on what choice we make, what's our desire. Are there any questions till
The
now?
Lord,
Sorry. Does anyone have any questions, any comments on what we have been reading?
No, none is such.
Okay.
The Lord
Please.
is beyond the inferior and marginal energies, as above mentioned, and his spiritual energy is manifested in three different phases, as in eternal existence, eternal bliss, and eternal knowledge. As far as eternal existence is concerned, it is conducted by the Sandhini potency. Similarly, bliss and knowledge are conducted by the Ladini and Samvit potencies, respectively. As the Supreme Energetic Lord, he is the supreme controller of the spiritual, marginal, and material energies. And all these different types of energies are connected with the Lord in eternal devotional service.
So these energies are the Lord's energies, spiritual, material, and we, the marginal. Material is his material world is conducted by material energy. Spiritual world is conducted by spiritual energy. All these energies belong to God. Then his spiritual energy is further divided into Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini. Sandhini is eternal existence, Samvit, eternal knowledge, and Hladini is eternal bliss. Material energy is inferior energy, that's right. Yeah, this material energy is the inferior energy of the Lord. So the Sandhini potency is by which there is eternally existing, the Lord is eternally existing. The Samvit potencies are the potencies of which is all knowledge. And Hladini potency is the potency by which the Lord feels pleasure, feels joy. He experiences joy with this Hladini potency. He experiences complete knowledge with his Samvit potency. And he eternally exists by his Sandhini potency. All these potencies belong to him. Just like the sunshine and the sun, they are non-different. But the sun is more powerful than the sunshine, no? The sunshine belongs to the sun. They are together. The sunshine is the energy of the sun. So the quantity of heat and light in the sun is much, much greater than the quantity of heat and light in one molecule of sunshine. So this is what we have to understand, that the Supreme Lord, all the energies belong to him. He controls all the energies. He's the supreme controller of material energy, the marginal energy, and the spiritual energy. And all these energies are meant to serve the Lord. Devotional service, eternal devotional service. So God is eternal. His energies are eternal. And the service to God that the energies engage in is also eternal. So devotional service is eternal activity because the soul is eternal, God is eternal, our service to God is eternal.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is thus enjoying in its transcendental eternal form. Is it not astounding that one dares to call the Supreme Lord non energetic? Lord is the controller of all energies, and the living entities are parts and parcels of one of the energies. Therefore, there is a gulf of difference between the Lord and the living entities. How can they how they then can one say that the Lord and the living entities are one and the same? In the Bhagavad Gita, also the living entities are described as belonging to the superior energy of the Lord. According to the principles of intimate correlation between the energy and the energetic, both of them are non-different also. Therefore, the Lord and the living entities are non-different as the energy and the energetic.
we have to understand our position in relation to God. We are one of God's energies. So and because we are part and parcel of God, we are same quality. God is Satchidananda, we are Satchidananda. But the quantity is completely different. Our potency is completely different. We are minute, whereas God is unlimited. He is controlling everything, everyone. He's controlling the material world, the spiritual world, and also us, the living entities. And we can simply be controlled by Him. So how can we say we are equal to God? We are not equal to God. All the Vedas are telling us there is a difference between the soul and the super soul, the Atma and the Paramatma, the Brahman and the Parabrahman. It's not the same. There is a difference. Simultaneous, one and difference. One in quality, but different in quantity. Because we are part and parcel of God. We have qualities of God. But because we are just simply a part, the quantity of qualities we have is minute, whereas God has them in unlimited degrees. So we are the energy of the Lord, just as we were saying earlier, that the quantity of heat and light in the sun planet is completely different than the quantity of heat and light in one molecule of sunshine. Although sunshine is the energy of the sun, sunshine also has heat and light because it's coming from the sun, but the quantity is completely different. So one and the same. That is our position in relation to God.
Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego are all inferior energies of the Lord. But the living entities are different from all as superior energy. This is the version of Bhagavad Gita.
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that this material world, which is made of these material elements, the gross elements and the subtle elements. Does anyone know which are the gross material elements? These: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the gross elements. We can see them or we can feel them. Mind, intelligence, and ego, they are the subtle ones. And they are all the inferior energy of God. They are material. They're not conscious. Not conscious, so they are inferior energy of God. And then Krishna goes on to say that there is a superior energy of mind comprising of the living entities who are trying to control this inferior nature. So Krishna is saying both the material energy and the living entities both belong to him. Bhagavad Gita says that the material world belongs to Krishna and the living entities also belong to Krishna, to God. Neither, you'll continue reading or?
Transcendental form of the Lord
We can't hear
is
you. We can't hear you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, your voice is very faint.
Hare Krishna, can you all hear me?
A bit better now.
Yeah. The transcendental form of the Lord is eternally existent and full of transcendental bliss. How then can such a form be a product of the material mode of goodness? Anyone, therefore, who does not believe in the form of the Lord is certainly a faithless demon, and as such is untouchable, a not to be seen persona non grata fit to be punished by the Plutonic king.
Lord Chaitanya is continuing to speak that the form of the Lord, Satchidananda, is transcendental, is eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge. It's a transcendental form. All the Vedas are saying this. All the scriptures, all the authorities are saying this. Then how can we say that this form, God's form, is born in the mode of material goodness? No, it's transcendental. We can't misinterpret the Vedas. We can't say something that is not. So God has a form which is spiritual, transcendental. Satchidananda, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. Lord Brahma says in the Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma is one of the authorities of spiritual knowledge, and he is saying that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and his form is transcendental. Because what happens, some people think that God in the ultimate issue is formless, and only sometimes from this formless light, sometimes he takes on forms and comes down to the earth time and time again. And then when he goes back to the spiritual world, he again becomes formless. No, no. God has a spiritual transcendental form. When we are saying transcendental, means it's eternal. Spiritual means always existing. It's always there. God is a person. He has a beautiful, beautiful form. This is what Lord Chaitanya is trying to make us understand at the very beginning. Krishna is saying, one who can understand that his form is transcendental, his pastimes are transcendental, just by understanding this, we don't need to come to the material world again. We can go to the spiritual world. If we can understand the supreme position of God, of Krishna.
The Buddhists are called atheists because they have no respect for the Vedas. But those who defy the Vedic conclusions, as above mentioned, under the pretense of being followers of the Vedas, are verily more dangerous than the Buddhists.
So Lord Chaitanya is continuing. He's saying Buddhists, Lord Buddha, he outrightly rejected the Vedas because people were misinterpreting the Vedas at that time. On the authority of the Vedas, people were committing slaughter of animals. So as for at that time, it just necessitated this action. And that's why Lord Buddha came as an incarnation and said, stop following the Vedas, just follow me. So directly becomes atheism. Anyone who does not follow the Vedas say is an atheist. But what happens when one says that we are following the Vedas, but not following the meaning of the Vedas, but misinterpreting the Vedas? That's more dangerous, because then innocent people can be misled. Innocent people will not understand what's happening. They will think, oh yeah, I am following the Vedas. So it is very dangerous to misinterpret the Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge has to be accepted as it is, because it is perfect knowledge.
Does anyone else wants to read?
Okay, I can continue. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
From here, Shri
Yes,
Vyastev.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Shri Vyastev very kindly compiled the Vedic knowledge in his Vedanta Sutra. But if one hears the commentation of the Mayavad school as represented by the Sankara Sampradaya, certainly he will be misled on the path of his spiritual realization.
So, Vedanta Sutra, the Vedas are compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, his incarnation of God. Only incarnation of God can compile the Vedas so that the knowledge is intact. Now, because the Vedic knowledge is so vast, he put it in sutra form, in short form, like a shorthand, like codes. So then there are people who have put commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra. But if one hears the commentary of Adi Shankaracharya or his descendants, then one will be misled. Why? Because Shankaracharya's commentary is misinterpretation of the Vedanta Sutra. He's not presented it as the author. Vyasadeva himself has put the Vedanta Sutra.
The theory of emanations is beginning subject of the Vedanta Sutra. All the cosmic manifestations are emanations from the absolute personality of Godhead by his inconceivable different energies. The example of touchstone is applicable to the theory of emanation. The touchstone can convert an unlimited quantity of iron into gold, and still the touchstone remains as it is. Similarly, the Supreme Lord can produce all manifested worlds by his inconceivable energies, and yet he is full and unchanged. He is Purna, complete, and although an unlimited number of Purnas emanate from him, he is still Purna.
So the example being given is that of a touchstone. The touchstone, Chintamani, whatever you touch to it, and then when you touch the iron to the touchstone, that iron will become gold. So Chintamani. So Chintamani has this capability to touch whatever it can into gold, and yet it remains the same, doesn't change. Its power does not reduce. So what to speak of God? He is supremely powerful. So from him, so many complete units are coming out, as Sri Ishopanishad says. The complete units are coming out. We individual souls are coming, the material planets are coming, everything is coming from God. But it doesn't mean that his energy becomes less. It doesn't mean that because God is creating so much that now he's so tired and he's sleeping and he has no energy at all. No, he's supremely energetic. He's unlimitedly energetic. So he is still the complete whole, in spite of all the emanations, in spite the living entities. We are his expansions. The material world is his material expansion. Yet he remains the complete whole. This is the way to understand complete, unlimited. He has unlimited potencies.
The theory of illusion of the Mayavad school is advocated on the ground that the theory of emanation will cause a transformation of the absolute truth. If that is the case, Vyasadeva is wrong. To avoid this, they have skillfully brought in the theory of illusion. But the world or cosmic creation is not false, as maintained by the Mayavad school. It simply has no permanent existence. A non-permanent thing cannot be called. Can you go a little down? Scroll a little down. Yeah. Can be called false altogether. But the conception that the material body is the self is certainly wrong.
So what happens is that they don't outrightly say that Srila Vyasadeva is wrong, because how can you say Vyasadeva is wrong? Srila Vyasadeva is incarnation of Godhead. He is incarnation of God. So what people say is that this world is false. This world is an illusion. But this world exists. We are very much right here in this world. We are very much right here inside the body. What is false is we thinking we are the body. The world is existing. It is temporary, but it is existing. It is real. It's real in the sense that we are very much right here in this, wherever we are, in whatever body we are in. We are very much inside this body. What is illusion? What is false? Thinking that we are the body. That is false. So this world is temporary, yes. Our time in this body is temporary, but it doesn't mean it's false. So the absolute truth can never be transformed. He is the absolute truth. Because some people say that, oh, you take a piece of paper and you cut it into so many pieces, and so only the pieces will remain, and the original paper is no more. But God is not paper. Paper is unconscious dead matter. You cannot compare unconscious dead matter to God. God is supreme conscious being. So he can create so many things from him, and yet he'll remain a person. Just a mother, she creates so many babies from her womb, and and she still remains a person. So what to speak of God? It doesn't mean the mother does not exist anymore because so many babies are coming from her. No, mother, father both exist. So the Supreme Lord exists as the complete whole. There's no transformation in the absolute truth.
Pranav Om or the Omkara in the Vedas is the primeval hymn. This transcendental sound is identical with the form of Lord. All the Vedic hymns are based on his Pranav Omkar. Tat Tvam Asi is a side word in the Vedic literatures, and therefore this word cannot be the primeval hymn of the Vedas. Sri Pada Sankaracharya has given more stress on the side word Tattvam Asi than on the primeval principle Omkara.
Tattvam Asi is also there in the Vedas, but the principal mantra is Om. All the Vedic mantras, they have this Om. The Om represents God. Not Tattvamasi, but what Shankaracharya gave more importance to Tattvamasi. And he did not give this importance to Om. Om represents God, is identical with the form of Lord. There's no difference between God and Omkar. So we see the mantras, they always have Om. It's God himself. But Shankaracharya, he gave importance to Tattvamasi. So he's like chosen little bits here and there from the Vedas and not explain Vedic knowledge completely as a whole.
The Lord thus spoke on the Vedanta Sutra and defied all the propaganda of the Mayavad school. The Bhattacharya tried to defend himself and his Mayavad school by jugglery of logic and grammar. But the Lord defeated him by his forceful arguments. He affirmed that we are all related with the personality of Godhead eternally, and that devotional service is our eternal function in exchanging the dealings of our relations. The result of such exchanges is to attain prema, or love of Godhead. When love of Godhead is attained, love for all other beings automatically follows, because the Lord is the sum total of all living beings.
So Lord Chaitanya was, refuting all the arguments, of whatever the Mayavad school arguments are. Lord Chaitanya is explaining clear meaning. So, of course, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was trying to defend it, but who can defeat the Lord in knowledge? Clear knowledge. The Lord also convinced him that we are all part and parcel of God, that we have a loving relationship with God. That is devotional service. And when we engage in devotional service, we can revive our love of God. Each of us has love of God in our heart because each of us is part and parcel of God. So it's natural, just like a child has natural love for the mother, mother has natural love for the child. Similarly, love of God is there naturally in each and every one of us. This love is eternal love. It's pure love. It's not material. The soul is eternal. God is eternal. The relationship between the soul and God is eternal. It always exists. Even in the spiritual world, the relationship exists between the soul and God. And the dealing between soul and God, that is devotional service. So when one engages in devotional service, one can revive love of God. And when one can love God, one will love everyone, everything, because everything is coming from God. It's part and parcel of God. So if we really want to love everyone, we have to learn to love God. Then we will be able to learn to love. Then we will be able to love everyone. Just as when we water the root of the tree, watering the root of the tree, the full tree becomes nice and green, healthy. Similarly, we love God, we will be able to love everyone, seeing everyone as part and parcel of God. So we'll stop here for today. Did anyone have any comments or questions?
Oh, Hare Krishna. Like this line is very good. The result of such exchanges is to attain prema or love of Godhead. Like when you love Godhead is attended, love for all other beings automatically follows. Like it is true.
Yeah.
This is very beautiful. Yeah. Like when you love
Yeah.
God, He will give you, like make you such, like everybody will love you and you can love to everyone.
Yeah, because then
You will-
everything, because the consciousness is changed, is based on love then. Because you're loving God and you're seeing everyone as part of God.
Yes. This line is really very like powerful line.
Yeah. Thank you. So how we can revive it? Engaging in devotional service. That we engage in devotional service. It's our eternal function in exchanging the dealings of our relation with God. So engage in devotional service. Continue to hear and chant to revive our love of God. So we'll stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shla Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.